Bill Shields asked a question: do you ever consider lease to own as an option to put more responsibility on the potential owner? He's thinking of the resident. So for anybody who's not familiar with what lease to own is, that's a way where you can rent your home to somebody, and they also basically have an option to purchase the property for you at a set dollar amount. Now, this in theory sounds pretty great if you are a short-term investor, a short-term buy and hold investor, right? So you basically get paid an option fee right off the bat. As the owner, you would maybe earn maybe $1,000, $2,000, maybe even $3,000 as an option fee. And then you would have the sales price already negotiated for that person to then buy from you, which would be your resident buying from you. So again, if you have a short-term rental strategy and you want to sell in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, this can be a good thing. You know, obviously for those who are familiar with the show and familiar with me, I have a very long-term outlook. You know, JWB in the Jacksonville market works really, really well for investors who have this long-term outlook. And when I say long-term outlook, I'd say a minimum of 5 years. And really what I want you to do is to hold on for 10 or more years. And the reason is because when you hold on for 10 or more years, home price appreciation no longer becomes speculative. You can count on it because over market cycles, home price appreciation rates tend to repeat themselves. So it's not something that I do. It's not something that we do for our residents, and it's not something that we do for our owners because it's not in line with our owners' goals and with our goals of holding long-term, right? You're not going to want to sign an option or a lease to own agreement for a 5-year or a 10-year hold. It just wouldn't make sense for either of you, either the resident or you. So we don't do it. And I can also just kind of share some personal experience with the lease to own thing. You know, many investors will say, well, it increases the likelihood that that person is going to take care of your home. When we first started doing this, like most things in real estate, we gave it a shot and we tried it. And what we found was that I think we did 6 or 7 lease options. Not one of those individuals did the things that they needed to do to qualify for the home. If you ask most investors out there who might do lease options, the chances of that resident actually getting qualified to buy your home from you is extremely small. Just doesn't normally happen. And so we just and then it creates some challenges, right? You keep this option deposit from that resident, and it's a really emotional thing for that resident to lose that deposit. It can actually sour a relationship. And so we decided that it wasn't the right move. And that was also in conjunction with our long-term outlook, right? And so the idea of earning more from the option deposit means less to me because I see the downside of it and hurting a really great resident relationship. You know, putting it another way, that resident could have stayed 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years with me. And, you know, it was tough when they had an option deposit they lost because they couldn't get qualified. So there's a downside to that. And then Bill's other question is, does it increase the responsibility of the owner? You know, you can work with a great property management company who can make sure that your residents are treating your home well, right? Treating it to the standard that they should. Now, this doesn't mean that your home is always going to be, you know, there's not going to be any issues with it. There are always going to be issues when tenants move out, but you shouldn't need the lever of having an option deposit to encourage that, right? You can encourage that through the way that you manage that relationship anyway. So you won't find lease to own as an option here at JWB for all those reasons combined. Great question, Bill.